Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. By show of hands, how many of you have heard or said that in Toastmasters, we do not evaluate content? I've been hearing it for years, and I especially recall a couple of years ago, we had the Monterey, I think it was Monterey Rotary Club come. And it was towards the end of when they gave feedback on the meeting, and it was Mark Del Piero that said, Toastmasters doesn't evaluate content, so it's of no use to me. So that's been in the back of my mind for some time. I keep thinking about it, and I disagree. We do evaluate content. And I think where that comes from is that we're in Toastmasters, we're very protective of our speakers, and we don't evaluate the subject matter. So we're not saying you shouldn't talk, we don't say you shouldn't talk about that. We're very clear about supporting people. So I think it's the subject matter that we're careful about not talking about, that you don't tell somebody you don't talk about the subject matter. So for example, if someone were saying they wanted to give a speech about the earth being flat, and I'm just choosing a very non-controversial subject here. So the earth is flat, they give this speech about it, and the evaluator then has to evaluate this speech. You wouldn't say, well, that's a really crazy point of view. Why would you talk about that? That's something you wouldn't evaluate. But you might say as an evaluator, moving forward, it could be helpful if you provided some maybe peer-reviewed evidence of this and some photos of the edge of the earth or something like that. So you're supporting their message. You're providing them additional content that they could that would help them and in giving their message. Because what we're doing here in Toastmasters is we have a message. We want to convey it, and we need to pull together some compelling content to do that. It's really critical to every speech that we give is that compelling content. So we don't want to leave that out of our evaluations. So for another example, say you're giving a speech on bullfighting, right? The matadors. Okay, so somebody gives a speech, the matador is waving the flag and they're saying, you know, it's not the red of the cape that the bulls go after, it's the movement of the cape. And this is an extreme example. Say you're their evaluator, and you're like, okay, the movement, that's interesting. But the evaluator could say, you know, well, you could add in your next speech that bulls are actually red-green colorblind. That provides a lot of evidence. That's content. It provides additional evidence. Now, you don't have to comment or evaluate on content. It's not necessary, but we shouldn't avoid it if there's something we have to add. Sometimes it comes across as evaluating structure, like you could put this in front of that, but you could add additional information. So I would say that if there is something that in your opinion could help bolster the message, then I think it would be appropriate to add it. And it is content focused. Does Toastmasters agree with me on this? Well, actually they do. When is the last time that you've looked at your evaluation? Actually, the last page of the evaluation form. This last category here, it's called interest. And the interest says you get 1 point if your content is neither interesting nor well constructed. You get 2 points if your content is interesting but not well constructed, or is well constructed but not interesting. And you get 5 points if you fully engage your audience with exemplary and well constructed content. So we are evaluating content, and it is a big part of what we do here. And I definitely agree with this. I'm glad that I had an opportunity to talk about it, because like I said, it's been something on the back of my mind that I think is really, really important, and a really important part of how we put our speeches together, how we develop them, and provide that really compelling content. And now it looks like I have a little bit of extra time, so I want to ask for feedback on this, because this is something we do talk about and have in our culture, in our club culture. Anybody have anything they wanted comment on or question?
What would you say to Delgado now? Now
Oh,
that,
Del Piero?
oh, sorry.
Delgado, what? I would say what I said at the time, that we do evaluate content, that it's an important part of what we do.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts? Again, just my opinion and a little bit supported by Toastmasters, but I do think it's important for us to bring that content in a way that we can. Yes. Carl.
So, Madam Speaker, I think a lot of where this came from is when perhaps evaluators in the past argued with the points that the speaker was making. They're not going to agree necessarily with what the speaker's talking about. And that happens from time to time in this club.
Yes.
And we know to leave content alone in that sense. We're not going to argue and say, oh, you're really wrong about what happened to Joe Biden or what happened to Donald Trump. And we're not here for a debate unless it's set up that way.
That's a really good point, and that's an excellent point, and one that I tried to make by choosing a very benign topic like the earth is flat, something that we all agree on. Had I chosen a more controversial subject, you would have been thinking about that subject during the entire speech, and I would have been harder to get my point across. But it's true, that is that fine line when you are evaluating. You don't want to be critiquing somebody's content or what they're saying or their point of view. You want to help support them in getting their message across. And that's an excellent way to end it. Thank you very much. Oh, we have wait, we've got a question. Sorry, Kate. Yeah.
I don't want you to go into the red. I just wanted to say I appreciate your topic very much and the examples you gave, and that it's really helpful to also, when we have difficult subject matters we have to broach for work, that we still get to come to Toastmasters and practice speaking on that subject matter and know that we'll be critiqued on our speech, delivery, etc., and not the topic. It's now red.
Excellent. The impromptu Q&A session because I ran out of time, but I managed to.